Does Africa have the potential to fill the expected EV commodity supply gap for lithium and graphite? And can some of the mineral production be utilized locally? We're going to try and answer some of those questions with Shirley. Shirley, thank you so much for your time. So you are going into a session that's going to be looking at some of the aspects around lithium and graphite. At the end of that session, what are some of the key messages, or perhaps a key message that you hope the audience will take away from that panel discussion?
Some of the key messages that I would really like to land really focuses on what the African countries must do in order to attract investment capital. And the investment capital that we need in the African countries really focuses on equity contributions, as well as getting funding structures into place that can actually develop the projects. So for me, that's the first important one, the capital contribution. The second thing that we do need to do is the African countries must ensure that they lay the foundation for clarity on monetary policy, fiscal policy, royalty payments, all of those type of aspects as well. And the third message that I would like to ask for Africa is to ensure that sustainability is also part and parcel of it, because we have the resources and we have the energy, minerals and metals, including the lithiums and the graphites, and to ensure that that can be beneficiated as well within the boundaries of the country to help Africa help themselves, actually.
When it comes to the second part of your message, and I think that's probably one of the key important ones that investors consider, that clarification when it comes to some of the regulations. Do you get a sense that there are some countries that are doing it right in terms of making sure that there is clarity between themselves and the investor across the table?
There are definitely countries that is doing it right. And I think from one election to another, the importance of consistency, taking it through to next election period is also very important. I can give examples, and I believe that South Africa is definitely one of them. We've seen many positive changes coming through in the DRC, with their copper production as well as the Libido corridor. And I'm also a very big supporter of Zambia, for example, again, where copper is very important, but that's not the only two countries or three countries that I would want to obviously lift out of the African context.
As the team within Absa CIB, when you look at the opportunities within the local downstream side of things, where are those opportunities and how are you leaning into them?
I think the beneficiation opportunities within the boundaries of the various countries is really the decision not to necessarily beneficiate 100% of the commodity that's extracted, but maybe a 50% processing and beneficiation is good enough to ensure that we do it as a phased-in process. It obviously costs capital to put up those processing and plants and smelters and everything else, but maybe it's time for Africa to start with at least the first one or two steps in the value chain. I think that's very important. However, it doesn't help that there's, plans for beneficiation and the infrastructure is not provided for. So making sure that it can actually move to a port, those type of infrastructure questions must also be answered.
Let's take those infrastructure questions that need to be answered and tied into the conversation around critical minerals, because everyone wants to be in that space because they see the potential for it and they see the role that obviously critical minerals can play in our just energy transition and some of the EV aspects of things that are playing out. The role you believe that Absa CIB can play in that space to be aligned to where those opportunities are in the critical minerals, but also I suspect in funding those infrastructure aspects of things in order for us to get closer to be able to move those goods across. Where do you see that?
We must always remember the energy, minerals and metals set of commodities are actually quite complicated because it's not gold that can be hedged or platinum that can be risk managed, etc. So we have to look at those energy minerals and metals a little bit differently. So what we've tried as a financial institution is to actually understand the commodity, understand where the commodity is going, how can it be extracted in a sustainable way and obviously economically viable as well, and see how we can match funding structures to those various components. You know, the extraction is one thing, but also maybe it becomes a pre-export type of facility. Maybe it becomes, a financing facility where it can be streamed, for example. So those are the things that we are looking at. But again, we need to appreciate who the off-takers are of those, and also understand that the off-taker will play a very big role in managing that financing and repayment of those facilities.
Everyone wants to talk about future-proofing the African mining sector. As a financial institution, as you have those engagements with not just the mining sector, but with investors as well, what does future-proofing the mining sector look like for Absa?
So future-proofing the mining of Africa is really linked to, I think, today, sustainability. We know capital will follow sustainability. So extraction of the mineral will be there. How is rehabilitation happening of where the commodity is extracted from? Can it be extracted in a green way? In other words, could we put up renewables next to those plants, the mining project? How is it moved as well? Trying to put more greener transport into place as well. So for us, future-proofing would be that it's done in a way that's sustainable, that one day when our children arrive, that there's still these minerals and metals there, and not just extracted for the sake of it, but that it's done in a way that it's there to ensure the growth and reducing poverty for so many of our African nations. So that's what I would like to see.
Shirley, thank you so much for your time. For more insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.